One of the most frequent questions we get asked by people interested in building their own barndominium is, what about power, water, septic? And in this video, we'll talk about all of those different types of utilities. I was recently on another channel, and they were talking about the war in Ukraine and the role that renewable energy could play in that conflict. One thing that struck me was the dependence on fossil fuels. Whether it's the pipeline from Russia to Europe or oil, and gas from the Middle East, even nuclear power, which is a form of fossil fuel, it's uranium. We're still reliant on these forms of energy. So what does that mean for us as we start to build our dream homes? Do we need to think about the type of energy that we use now? Should we be looking at more renewable sources like solar and wind? That's really important. And it's one of the things that you want to take a look at as you begin to plan your build. Utilities is one of those things that you can kind of overlook when you're first starting out. But I don't think that you can really afford to do that because it's going to affect not only the budget, but also the location and the actual construction of your home. So here's a quick overview of the different types of utilities you'll want to consider. First off, you have to decide how you're going to get electricity to your property. Are you going to bring power lines from the road to your house? If so, that's going to require working with the local power company, getting a permit and having them come in and do some major digging and work on your property. This can be an expensive proposition, especially if there are environmental concerns or archaeological issues that come up along the way. It's also going to require ongoing maintenance on your part to make sure the system stays up to date and safe. Alternatively, you can install a solar power system. There are a lot of benefits to going solar, but it does come with some challenges as well. For example, you'll need to invest in batteries and other equipment to store excess energy so you can use it when you need to. Another option is to have a whole house generator that runs on natural gas or propane. Propane is the most popular fuel source for generators because it's less expensive than gasoline, easier to store, and produces fewer emissions. You'll need to find a good spot for the generator, one that's easily accessible but also far enough away from your home to prevent noise pollution. Again, you'll also need to work with your local municipality to ensure everything is up to code and safe. A whole house generator is a great investment for anyone who wants to be prepared in case of a power outage. It can provide backup power to essential appliances and devices, giving you peace of mind knowing that you'll be able to stay warm, cool, and fed even if the lights go out. You should always be prepared for anything, though. So in addition to a whole house generator, you may also want to consider purchasing smaller portable generators. That way you'll have options if you need to move around and don't have time to start up the main generator. No matter what type of power system you choose, it's important to budget for potential problems beforehand. Hidden costs can really add up quickly. When you're setting up a new utility system, there will likely be permits, trenching, hookups, or storage tanks to account for. You might also need to pay for inspections or hire professionals to help you troubleshoot any issues that come up. Another key consideration for any barndominium is water. If your property is located far from city services, you'll probably have to drill a well. Wells aren't cheap to drill and maintain, but they're usually the best option if you're located in a rural area. The average cost of drilling a well in the U.S. is around $28 per foot, although prices vary depending on location. So be sure to shop around and get quotes from multiple well drillers before beginning your project. You'll also need to have your well tested to ensure that the water is safe to drink. This can cost anywhere from $200 to $500 depending on the complexity of the testing required. Once your well has been drilled and tested, you'll need to connect it to your home. This usually involves running pipes from the wellhead to your house and installing a pump. You may also need to install a pressure tank and other equipment to regulate water flow. If you're not connected to a rural water supply, you'll also need to consider how you'll handle wastewater. In most cases, this means installing a septic system. A septic system is basically a series of pipes that carry away liquid waste from your home to a septic tank where it's treated before being released into the environment. Aerobic systems are becoming more popular because they produce less waste and are better for the environment. However, they're also more expensive to install than traditional septic tanks. Plus, you'll need to factor in the cost of electricity to run the unit. Traditional septic tanks, on the other hand, don't require electricity, but they do need to be pumped every few years. You'll also need to make sure that your septic system is installed correctly. If it's not, you could end up with sewage on your hands, literally. Septic system installation is fairly complex and requires a lot of specialized knowledge. so it's definitely something that you'll want to leave up to the professionals. If you're considering a septic system for your barndominium, be sure to budget for these additional costs. There are also several factors that will affect the cost of your septic system, including the size of your property, the type of soil you have, and the local regulations. For example, if you have clay soil, you may need to install a more expensive system that can handle the extra moisture. On the other hand, if you have sandy soil, your system may be less expensive to install, but you may need to take steps to prevent it from leaching contaminants into the groundwater. When it comes to waste management, you also need to think about propane. Most barndominiums rely on propane for cooking and heating, and many also use it for hot water and air conditioning. Propane is stored in large tanks above or below ground. Above-ground tanks are cheaper and easier to install, but they're also more visible and can be dangerous if not properly maintained. Underground tanks, on the other hand, are less visible and safer, but they're also more expensive to install. You'll also need to budget for the ongoing cost of filling your propane tanks. This can be tricky because the price of propane fluctuates based on a number of factors, including the time of year and the price of natural gas. Finally, when you're planning your utilities, be sure to factor in some wiggle room for future expansions. As your family grows, you may need to add on bedrooms or bathrooms. Having the infrastructure in place to support these additions will save you time and money down the road. Now is the time to future-proof your build. Here are a few pro tips to keep in mind as you're planning your utilities. Don't underestimate drainage. It's important to have a clear understanding of how water flows across your property. This will help you avoid costly mistakes like installing a septic system in an area that is prone to flooding. Don't forget about backups. Whether it's a generator, solar power, or even just candles, you need to have a backup plan in place in case of a power outage. You also need to think about what you'll do if your water runs out or your septic system backs up. Don't skimp on permits and inspections. It may be tempting to try to save money by bypassing building codes and doing your own inspections, but this could end up costing you a lot of money in the long run. If you're ever sold, the new owner is going to have to deal with getting everything up to code. So do yourself and your future self a favor and just get the permits and inspections right from the start. If you're thinking about building a barnwood mansion, then you're probably wondering what utilities you're going to need and how much they're going to cost. Don't worry, we've got you covered. Just click the video on screen now. And don't forget to subscribe for more great tips on building the home of your dreams.